Welcome everyone to my latest tool-assisted speedrun, and today we have a very interesting category. Our goal here is to break all of the rocks and collect all of the geo, and we're going to do that by breaking the game. As you might notice here, we are walking through the air. That's called airwalk. And you might also notice that the camera is a little bit unusual. In order to keep track of what's happening with the night, the camera is following the night around. And that's a modification we're using because of the fact that the glitched run here does a lot of out-of-bounds movement. So here we have what's known as transition storage with the inventory open that allows us to interact and get dialogue storage where we can keep moving while this dialogue interaction is happening. We waited briefly there, and now we have Cyclone without having to wait through the whole cutscene. Now we're going to do this super slide, which allows us to get very fast movement across. And now we're doing some out-of-bounds movement to quickly get through these cliffs rooms that otherwise would take quite a bit longer to work through. And now we're almost to Greenpath. And again, we use these super slides. And we can drop down, and we're heading towards Hornet. Our goal here is to get Dash as quickly as possible, since Dash speeds things up. But there are a couple rocks we can grab on the way, so we'll grab those quick rocks that are easy to get. And then now that we got those, we can work our way to the Hornet fight. So you might notice that we're only a little bit over a minute in, and we've already gotten to Hornet. That is one of the advantages to being able to use airwalk to go through cliffs, and then the out-of-bounds movement as well. This is a nice quick fight. We use the door there to keep Hornet busy, and then we're using those nail throw attacks to minimize the number of staggers. And then here we're going to lose a little bit of time, but that's because I wanted to show you this, which is the fun little one of the many ways that Hornet can glitch out. So now here we're getting focus storage, which allows us to then cross the barrier and get dash, and then get storage again. And basically we don't lose any control during these cutscenes. And so we did that because normally you would quit out there to avoid the cutscene, but we want to actually get that rock. And now we're going to go and grab one more rock before we quit out, because coming back and getting this rock later is pretty awkward, so we might as well get it while we're here. And there we go. Now we've got all the rocks we need here, and we're going to resume, which is going to put us back into KP. So now we're going to get all the rocks in here. Now that we have Cyclone, we can use that to get these rocks very efficiently, which is why we didn't bother getting them earlier. Use our mixture of airwalks and dashes to get through here as efficiently as we can. Still using a little bit of nail turnaround knockback every now and then. In particular, we can use it there to clear that obstacle. Normally we could do a rock fall skip there, but we don't need to bother because we need to get that rock anyways. And then we grab this rock here that's kind of hiding in the dark without bothering to actually go into the dark. So now you can get over this door. That door is actually not that high, so if you go over it, you can just get control. Here we're using something called dash storage, where we can just keep moving at dash speed continuously. Very handy for long, flat segments like that. And now we can start making our way forward and onward. Notice that we have the ability to maneuver while inventory is still open. That's a result of transition storage. And again, we're doing some out-of-bounds movement here. There's a lot of good out-of-bounds movement that allows us to go into fungal. As you can see, we've bypassed several rooms just by falling out of bounds. And then here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the right and then fall across this entire room. This room we can't do out of bounds because it's just a straight horizontal room, so we just go straight across. There's a rock here we can grab, otherwise we would have done out of bounds. Now for this room, we do what's known as a load warp. So we're going to die to the hazard, and then we're going to get control back, and then we're going to die to the hazard again, which then allows us to get that rock. We basically skipped an entire room doing that little load warp. Now we're going to fall down here, and then we do a quick turn, And now we're going to do another bit of dash storage. This one barely saves any time, but it's still worth there. And so we are almost in the room with Claw, which is our next goal. But first we need to grab that little rock, go back down, and now we can do out of bounds movement to go around that area. And then this room is the last room before Claw, so we just use control while we're falling. Get one little tap on that rock. Use airwalk to get up here. Now we can get Claw. We have control from closing inventory. And now we can use the Cyclone to break those two rocks. And now that we have Claw, we can do some crazy shit. So you might notice that we are doing some nail knockback. And we do another super slide there, where it's knocking us a lot faster than you'd expect. And that's because when you have wall cling storage, which is where you're kind of bringing a wall with you and borrowing it, if you then nail slash against the wall, you actually can accumulate quite a bit of speed, even more speed than you can get from a C-dash. It doesn't last for very long because you keep falling, so as soon as you hit the ground, that speed is lost, but there are a couple places where we can get these quick bursts of speed from it. Now we have Dashmaster. Dashmaster is going to be useful for a couple reasons. One, it just lets us dash more often, but it also will give us the ability to do down dashes when we have a state called float. So now here, we are going to come down and get this rock. And after this, we're going to do an interesting series of maneuvers that is known as a wrong warp. And so what that is going to do here is we are going to go through this door, and we are going to use hazard to give us some respawn triggers that allows us to hit a transition more than once. Now we're on the left side of that room, now we're on the right side of the room, left side of the room, right side of the room. So we're bouncing back and forth across vast distances and jumping to the wrong transition on each side. And now we're just in what's known as a room dupe. We're actually in two different rooms at the same time, but because we're in two different rooms at the same time, we can maneuver and reach load zones that are in a different room than the one that we entered. And this allows us to basically teleport very quickly between rooms. And this whole procedure that we're doing here is to be able to get to C-dash. So normally to go to C-dash, you would have to get either dive or lantern to enter C-peak. We bypassed all that, and we're bypassing all of these rooms as well. And very soon here, we're actually going to be in the room, and now we can use wall cling storage to get across this very long room. We're bypassing all the lasers up top, and now we can get C-dash. We use inventory to get control, so we don't have to wait for the whole cutscene. And then as soon as we get C-dash, we can quit out. So we just had to wait for the game to actually set the flag. So now that we have C-dash, we can do all sorts of crazy shit. So you notice we were able to charge the C-dash there and then zoom across. You can actually charge C-dash while you're moving if you can get control during the C-dash charge. And we'll use that a couple different places. There we're just going to do some more fast falling. And then here we are going to get VS. So Vengeful Spirit is normally not required for tasks because you would normally use it to break into Greenpath. But it's actually pretty useful for us. And we need to go there anyway because there are some rocks inside the mound. So we use the C-dash here, we interrupt it, and then we can keep moving. You notice that we don't have to wait for the deceleration because we can close the map and interrupt and get control back immediately. Another thing here, you notice that we haven't lost control even though we're talking to the shaman. Now we're going to do an interesting thing there. We got storage on that bench. So you notice it says rest still. We've just teleported into the room, and so now we're moving during this cutscene. And we're doing most of the Mound sequence actually behind this cutscene. As you can see, we're halfway through Mound already. Now this whole time, we actually still have that bench as somewhere that we want to go. So we're going to grab these rocks, and then we are going to get this rock, and then we're going to sit on the bench. And so we're now on that bench, even though we're not on it, we're above it. But now when we quit and load back in, we're going to load in where the bench normally is. And so now that we're on this bench, now we can leave. So we managed to skip having to actually fight the boulder, so we could just get the rocks and then leave. So now that we have VS, we are going to proceed further in, and we're going to work our way through to wraiths, although we're not actually going to get wraiths. All we really care about at this point is the rocks through this area. So we're going to head through here. There is a rock through the wall here, which is much easier to get through the wall than to get inside the room because you'd have to get past those explosives. Now here we are going to do another room duplication glitch where we're going to be in 2 rooms at the same time. And by being in 2 rooms at the same time, it makes it much easier to continuously move left. Pretty much every time we're on the right side, we're going to do a quick turn and then we go left. And then we do another quick turn and then we're going to go through another left transition. And so this entire sequence allows us to very quickly move left without actually moving through the rooms. We're going to take a quick detour to grab this rock. And then now we're going to continue moving left. Our goal here is to get to the Wraith's mound. And then once we enter the mound, it will reset this room dupe. And so we just do more left, right, left, right. And then we need to clear the room dupe, or at least the part of the room that was overlapping it, so that we can make it through. Now we're above the other room. There's another room that we're overlapped with, but it's below us, so it's not obstructing us. So now we are going to do this fun arena. So one thing to note here is that because we only want geo from rocks and chests, we don't want to pick up any enemy geo, we're going to do a little bit of geo dodging. I forgot to mention it, but we do have Gathering Swarm. That's just to help speed things up a little bit. There's a lot of rocks to break, and if you had to sit and wait for all the geo to be manually collected, it would take forever. So we're just going to go ahead and use Swarm to make things interesting, and it also makes for some fun dodging moments. So now here we're going to use a super slide to get out of there before the geo can catch us. We do leave, though, because we need to clear that geo, because we need to get the rock. That's the whole reason we came here. So we're going to come through here, grab this rock, avoid all the squits, and then now we can't do the super slide again because we need this geo to actually catch up to us. So we just use some wall cling storage and some wall cling storage slides. So now we're going to do a fun little thing where we fall down through here, and then we wall cling storage underneath the floor to get to that transition. So that bypasses the shade gate. Then we're going to make it through here with some normal C-dash. And now here, we're going to go around this top area here, because we want to reach a transition that we couldn't reach otherwise. And then here, we're going to do another load warp. So we're going to hit this hazard, and then we're going to hit the hazard again, which allows us to get control from the hazard, and then we're able to warp up and around. So we just crossed an entire long room and made our way through the exit in that other room into this area. So we managed to bypass the long room past Marmu, and we only have to pass a few of the frogs in order to get to the geo. Now we're on the far left side, so we have to actually C-dash to get all the way to the right side. So we skipped this entire segment moving left by using that load warp earlier off the thorns. There is another rock we have to grab down here. And then there is just one more group of Queen's Rocks, if I recall correctly. Here we're doing what's known as a rocket jump, where we can use C-dash and charge it and then jump. You're moving at normal walking speed horizontally, but you're moving at a slightly faster than normal vertical speed. So it's a little bit faster than doing an airwalk if you have time to charge it. And then we do a little cyclone drop to get there a little bit quicker. And then here we're going to do a charge C-dash. And then we're going to keep the C-dash because we want to have it in the next room. So now the C-dash allows us to then quickly fall down there. That's known as a gravity dash, where we have C-dash but we're still falling. That's a little frame perfect trick that also requires having control during C-dash. We work our way under those guys very quickly. Another couple rocks here. And then now we're going to be able to use VS to break this wall over there and then C-dash through. Here we're just going to C-dash through continuously through these rooms. You'll notice that we're able to control the C-dash to trigger a little bit late after we enter the room. That's because we have control while we've entered the room. So we're always getting control early and then able to do a little bit of movement before the room actually officially loads. That's what allows us to do out-of-bounds movement, and it's also what allows us to do things like not start the C-dash right away. And we use that a couple different places in very interesting ways. So again, we charged up. The reason we do that cyclone there is to be able to get control during the C-dash to be able to keep charging the C-dash while dashing. So now we're going to do what's known as a shroom zoom. Always very fun. And then we're going to airwalk up there and grab a couple more rocks. As you can see, there's just rocks all over the place in this game. But we can move pretty quickly with glitches, and it allows us to get through these rooms much faster than would otherwise be possible. Now we're going to clear out the last of the rocks in this room. And ultimately, our goal here is to get to the Mantis Lords chest. Now the thing is, the Mantis Lords chest requires fighting Mantis Lords, which that's really slow. But with glitches, we don't have to do that. And so we're going to do a heist, and we're going to break in and steal the Mantis Lords chest. And to do that, we're going to start over by Bread Bench here. So we're going to grab the bench because we're going to need to quit out later after the dupe. And now we're going to start a room dupe. This is known as a reverse dupe, where we're going to dupe into the next room and then move back at the same timing so that we now have 2 copies of this room. Now that we're in 2 copies of this room, we're going to move out of this room and load a separate copy of the left room. This left room we're going to go right, which puts us back into this room, which then we're going to fall down here and go underneath, and now we're going to go through the vertical transition to go down to the Mantis Lords room. And then from there we can then do an upward transition into the Safari room. In order to leave here, we have to use a super slide out of bounds in order to get through the load zone. But now we have to dodge a little bit of geo. So what we did there is we did a down dash into the floor, which gave us a perfect height to be able to get what's known as airwalk float. So we have a float state, which means we don't fall, but we also have an airwalk state, which means we're able to dash and walk and jump freely as if we were on the ground. And that allows us to dodge the geo all the way up here to get to this last little transition here, which enters the rewards room. And now we cross to a leftward transition, which enters the middle of the rewards room and allows us to steal the chest. So I recognize that might have been hard to follow, but net result, we pulled off a burglary. So now we're going to get out of that dupe and load back into the normal room there. We are going to climb on the outside because it's slightly faster, and we're going to use the rocket jump to get up there because that's fun. Now we're going to head through here, and we actually have to go into the Mantis Lords room again, this time because we're going to grab some rocks here. It would have been nice to grab these rocks during the dupe, but unfortunately geometry was blocking us because of the other room on top of this room. But now that we're only in one room at the time, we can get these rocks. And then we can go ahead and use the rocket jump to get back up. I love rocket jumps, they're very fun. So now, we've finished with this area here, and we're going to start heading towards Deepnest. So we're going to head through Fungal Core to grab the rocks there. And Airwalk, of course, allows us to bypass having to get wings. There's one little rock there. And we're doing some WCS slides there to kind of quickly bounce around. This rock's a little awkward because we have to dodge those enemies, but not too bad. Grab that. And now we get to drop down into Deepnest. So Deepnest has a ton of rocks. And we're just going to work our way through them, one at a time. So one fun thing in this room is you can actually squeeze past these garpies, like that. It's a little bit tricky because you have to be facing a particular direction, and we use the nail swing to force ourselves to be facing that direction. Although in that case we were able to down dash, which was also sufficient. So now here, we can work our way around there. Quick little rocket jump. WCS slide there to get quickly across. Now we're already in the next room. Now we need to make our way up here. You might have noticed that we had to dodge those garpedes that were trying to get in our way there. They do actually extend outside the room, so you have to dodge them while you're out of bounds even. But that is still significantly faster than going through the room. Unfortunately here we can't squeeze, there's not enough room, so we have to wait a little bit. But we can damage tank through that one, because that's pretty fast. So now we use WCS to get to the downward transition. And then we go around, fall around this room. We go onto the left side, and now we can quick turn and then go back down. And so here we're going to drop around this huge long Garpede maze. We're just going to fall. And now we can get to the hot springs bench. And we're going to get the C- there because it's a lot faster. You notice we don't actually have to wait for the bench to sit. We can just get control early. That's really the theme of major glitches, is not having to wait for anything. We just get control whenever we want it, and then that allows us to keep moving. So now we get to work our way through these long, twisty tunnels, which means a lot of different C- usages and then a little bit of WCS thrown in for good measure. Just this rock, and then there's one more rock we gotta get to. And now we can quit back out. So now that we are back at the hot springs bench, we can work our way up and grab some of the light side rocks. And it's going to be faster to grab them from above. So first we're going to go around the outside of the room. Then we're going to go up and then back down again. And now we can grab the rocks from the top, which is going to be more efficient. Grab those rocks real quick. And now we're going to head to the big dark room. And the big dark room has a bunch of rocks in it, as well as the access to the Weaver's Den, which has a chest. So we're going to go through here. And then now we're going to do big room. Big room does take a while because it's, well, big. But it's not too bad. We didn't have a spell there to be able to break that faster, unfortunately. There really wasn't a good place to get soul earlier, so... But now we can get the chest. We can go through the shortcut there. Normally that would be revealed by coming from the left side, so we just see it as black. And so now we're going to work our way back through here. We can use C- to very conveniently make it here. And then cross all the way across here. We get this one from the left side because it's faster than getting past the Devout. And now we can rocket jump our way up here. Just a couple more rocks through here. And now we are going to continue upward. And we're going to go up toward Queen's Gardens, that is. But we don't actually want to go into Queen's Gardens. We just need to grab a couple of rocks on the way. So to do that, we have to go up this room, which is a nice, long, tall room. And then there's just a couple rocks in here, which don't take too long to get. And now we can go around the outside of the room much faster and use WCS to be able to reach the transition. So now we are going to go around the left side, and that is going to involve going across the top of this room. The reason we have to bypass this room, A, it's faster, but also there is actually a toll in this room on this patch. This is an early patch of the game, 1028, which is used because it gives us access to a broader variety of glitches. A lot of these glitches are available on later patches as well, but this is just the most flexible patch for this particular glitch set, which is known as no main menu storage. There are actually more powerful glitches than these even. But we're not using those. So you might notice we turned invisible. That's because we're actually technically in the middle of a cutscene right now. We use bench storage to get past that Devout, and we're now in the cutscene on the trap bench. Which, now that we've picked up these rocks, we get the cutscene that gives us control. This whole time we can't see anything because we're still in the cutscene, but we're able to move during that time anyways. Knight is still invisible, but we will become visible later. We were able to sneak past that guy using a very precise dash. And then here, we rocket jump up and go around. And then we just have one more rock we need to get. We have to damage tank this guy because he's in the way. But then we grab these rocks and we're done. So now we're going to head back to Hot Spring Bench. And one last thing we've got to do here in Deepnest is grab the tram pass. So first we're going to head through this room, and then we're going to climb up Dark Side past Galeon. There are a couple rocks in that room, so we need to grab those. One thing you might notice is that we do actually have light currently. I've left the light on to make it easier to see, even though technically we don't have lantern. Otherwise, it's just really not much fun because you can't really see the movement. It's not a problem for TAS, since TAS is done with hitboxes anyway, so having lantern's not a big deal. So now we can make our way to Tram Pass. There's a nice little C-dash here. Very funny little movement there. Yeah, and there's a nice C-dash here that crosses the whole room. And then we get Tram Pass, we get early control, we exit out. So now that we got Tram Pass, naturally we're going to be heading towards the tram. There's a couple rocks in the way. And our ultimate goal here is we're actually going to go all the way to KE. Because we're going to want to do Basin and Abyss toward the end. And we have to damage tank through these because they're in the way, sadly. But we can get through here pretty efficiently still. Takes a while to get into the tram. Unfortunately, there's no way to speed that up. But we can speed up the tram itself a little bit by doing save and quits based on the transition. So we've already moved to the next state. Rather than waiting for the whole animation, we can just save and quit and load back in. And then we're actually going to do this twice because we need to go all the way to the Hive. So now we are going to save and quit again. And then once we come back in, we will have Hive. That's another gravity dash to get through there. And we're going to go clear out Hive now. Hive is a nice area. There's quite a bit of geo in here. And we do have Cyclone Slash and VS, which allows us to get through the honey walls pretty quickly. And thankfully the little bees don't drop geo on this patch. It'd be very awkward if they did. Nice and quick movement through Hive here. Mix up the airwalks and the C-dashes. Almost done with Hive. Just got a couple more rocks to go. We jumped slightly there because otherwise the bee would actually stop our motion. So we had to be slightly jumped. You can actually jump slightly if you have control while you're charging C-dash without losing the C-dash. That gives us some flexibility so we can choose what height we want to start our C-dashes at. Okay, so that's Hive. And now we are going to open a shortcut that we're going to need later. So we're not going to go into KE itself, but we're going to climb through here and grab these rocks. And you notice we waited there a little bit. That's because we needed time for the geo to catch up to us. Otherwise, we would leave the room before it caught us. Grab that rock because it's convenient. And then C-dash through here. And then now that we've opened that shortcut, we can grab the other rock in there later once we have dive. So we're going to head back to the tram, and then we're going to take the tram to Basin. And then once we're in Basin, we're going to climb up into City. So our next major goal is we want to get dive, because dive is going to allow us to access a couple of rocks that are locked behind dive. Movement in this room is a little bit awkward. There's a lot of things in the way, especially down through here. This guy really wants to block you. So we have to work our way around that guy. We do a super slide here, because that's a little bit faster than C-dash. Now we climb the elevator. There's a couple geo rocks in here. Thankfully, they're not too difficult to get to. And then we got early control off of the Cyclone, which allowed us to charge C-dash and do our rocket jump there. We did that fireball to get float, And float will allow us to float upwards like this without having to jump repeatedly or charge a C dash. And then we're able to use a down dash out of float without losing the float state. So that allows us to still move downward in the state. So we're working our way up here to the top of Spire because we want to get the Watcher Knight's chest. Normally that would involve fighting Watcher Knights, but we're not going to do that. We also fired a fireball there to lose float, otherwise it would have taken longer to make it through that room. Now we're going to go over the top here, and then we can fall down. So our goal here is to get now this rock, which unfortunately requires a damage tank to get to, but not a big deal. It's very convenient though that these two rooms are connected together. That avoids us having to go through the room or the side that has the gate we have to open. We're able to jump and get a seed edge over all those guys. And now we're going to head up towards Sanctum. So now we're heading into Sanctum. We're going to skip this fight, because why fight if we don't have to? And now we're going to go up the left side of this room. And then we're going to go under this room. And then work our way around to this door. That allows us to bypass the lever there. We can't actually do the lever skip on this patch. That's only available on patch 1.2.2.1. So now we are going to go around this room. There is some invisible geometry up there, so we have to get up there and then do a quick dash storage. So we've technically started the second phase of the fight, and we've just killed him. He just killed himself on some spikes. So now we can just go down there and collect our reward. Very quick Soul Master fight. You almost didn't see it. And now we have to come in here because there is a little bit of geo. We need that soul because we're going to have to dive. And then we get the geo here. And rather than go through this room normally, though, we can just do out of bounds movement. So we can quickly drop down there, make our way across this room. And now this room is fun. We're actually going to drop and C-dash underneath the floor directly into the downwards transition, which then allows us to go back around the left side. Nice quick way to work our way around there. And then we do a WCS under there, which gets us to this transition, which we can go back up through, which then allows us to go through the left transition of this room without having to go through the elevator. So now we need to grab a couple things. There's some more rocks over here, and we also want to grab a simple key. So we're going to hit that to open the door. While it's opening, we're going to climb up to the simple key, or airwalk up rather. And now we've stored the simple key, so we're not actually picking it up yet. We're going to wait until we can get control faster, then we pick it up there. You don't have to pick it up where you pick it up. You can pick it up later. So now we're going to dash through there. And then we're going to grab the rock that is hiding up here. So there's a few more city rocks we'll need to get. Fun little WCS slide there. That room didn't have any rocks, so we can just skip it. Another WCS slide across most of the room. That's slightly faster than C-dash, which is why we do that rather than C-dash. Here we're going to do a very cool trick known as a Televator, like that. So you get to teleport with the elevator. Normally you would teleport on top of the elevator and be on it, but in our case we actually teleported while touching the bottom of the elevator, which allowed us to drop out of the bottom of it from the top of the shaft, which allowed us to then break the rocks through the wall and then fall back down to the transition we wanted to get to. We're going to skip the fountain here by having control. The funny thing is that we actually get this dialogue storage, which is going to continue through a couple of rooms here, where we continue talking to Hornet while we're working our way through. Using a combination of these diagonal C dashes with gravity dashes. I do love diagonal C-dash. That's a very tight timing, but if you have control while you're coming into the room, you can actually, we use Televator there to get the elevator out of the way. You can actually C-dash diagonally while still having the full C-dash horizontal speed. Another little rock here. And so now we are going to head up towards resting grounds. Another Televator to get to the rock faster. I love Televator, it's such a fun glitch. So, for resting grounds, we don't actually need any rocks here yet, but we do need to get the stag, because we're going to get the crypts rocks later. One of the side effects of this run is because we're not allowed to spend any of the Shiok we're collecting, we can't use stags. And so the only stag that we can use is the... that's a fun little D-nail skip, by the way. We don't want to have to go through the whole D-nail cutscene in Dreamplats. Is we can only use the resting ground stag, which is opened by a lever, and the dirt bound stag. So we use fireball to hit the bell, and we did a wiggle there to make the bell come up faster. And then now we can talk to the stag and we can move to Deepnest. So more fun C-dashing. And then now we're going to grab a bunch of the rocks that we missed in Crossroads earlier, now that we have full movement and can get them very efficiently. So there's that rock, and then there's a rock in Moloch Room. So for this, we're going to use mostly WCS to get through. And then we're going to fall out of bounds here to go around the drop floors so that we can get through here faster. And just use airwalk to climb up. Another WCS slide, those are always fun. And we're going to C-dash out of here, and that's to be able to trigger the diagonal C-dash. In this case, it's a wall jump diagonal C-dash, which is more like a rocket jump, less X speed. We're going to grab that, and then we're going to do a fun little super slide there, which we're able to leave the room just in time to not pick up any geo. So here, we do kill a Vengefly, which means we're going to need to dodge that Vengefly's geo while collecting the rest of the geo. So you'll see some funny movement there to be able to do that. So now we're going to grab the bench here, and this bench is going to let us do a couple of fun little tricks. So we need to get the rocks in that latern-locked room on the way to Sea Peak. Before we do that, though, we are going to get the false snipe geo, which is in the chest. So we're going to grab some geo here. We go up through here and back down because it's a little bit faster than going back around the other way. And now we can get the rock in here as well as the chest. The chest, of course, requires us to kill False Knight, which is fun when you can't pick up enemy geo because it breaks some enemies. So now we have to dodge this geo while fighting False Knight. You might have seen this before if you watched some of the other tasks I've done, but it's still fun to do. And for this fight, we actually have BS as well as Cyclone Slash, so we can fight him pretty efficiently. He never even gets a chance to hit us. And then a little dash here to keep the orbit. And then we can kill him. And then now we're just going to wait to go through this door. We're going to go ahead and ditch this geo, and then we'll come back in and get the chest. We had to wait there in order to make sure that when we went through that transition, we set up an appropriate orbit so the geo couldn't hit us while we were in the transition. And now we get all the chest geo. So now we're going to get the geo in the lantern room where there is the toll. Now that geo is normally not accessible without paying the toll, which we can't do in the dark. And we technically shouldn't have lantern here. So instead we're going to do a room dupe. And so this is a fun little room dupe sequence. And so we are going to load into this room, and we're going to work our way around and load into a room a little ways away, where going through that left transition will put us inside where the geo rocks are. It's sort of like the breaking into the Mantis Lords chest, just a different series of rooms to get to the dupe. There is a rock on the right side which we can't reach, so we're going to continue in the dupe, and we're going to reposition the dupe so that we enter that room from the other side. And then that will allow us to get the other side. And now we can exit the dupe. So we're going to go back to the bench. So now we can actually enter that lantern room normally, and we're just going to go around the top of it. So now we're going to the C peak, and we're going to grab the rocks that we skipped earlier when we were going to C dash. This one you actually have to catch the geo carefully, because if you let it fall too far, the geo doesn't have fall speed cap, so it would take forever to catch up back up with us. So we don't want that. No geo in that room. There's Fun Rock here. So this is the dog cycle room. We're not going to do dog cycle because we're just going to go through this transition instead. And then we're getting float here. And then float is going to allow us to get through this room quickly, because it's a very tall room. Specifically, we're going around and we're going to go through the right transition. We still have float at this point, which makes some things a little bit awkward. You notice we had to do a down dash there to reach the floor to be able to keep C dashing. But it actually works out okay, because this section does require a lot of vertical movement. But then we'll get rid of the float once we're up in here, using the fireball to get rid of it. Then we just have a couple more geo rocks that are dive locked. We're going to grab those. And now we can continue through there. Those WCS slides are very satisfying, work our way around the enemies. And now we can get the right side geo. You can see why we waited for later for this, because there's a couple of dive locked geo rocks. So it didn't make sense to do the C peak geo. The only reason we came here early was to get C dash, because as you've noticed, C dash is quite a versatile ability when you have glitches. Just a couple more rocks to go. And one chest as well. Perfect timing to get through that laser. And then crushers, which are always awkward. The C dash up here is probably not very efficient, but there's a few little things like that that could be optimized more. Quick turn, and then I believe this is the last of the geo. Yep. Okay, so C peak geo is done. Now we are going to grab the last bits of the Crossroads geo. And that includes some geo rocks on the right side here. We actually went through these rooms earlier when we were doing the dupe, but we couldn't really reach anything from inside the dupe, so. I have to go through here again. Our little hidden rock underneath the tram here. It's always a fun rando check. And now we're going to do a little dupe sequence here, just to make our way across the rooms a little bit faster. So by going to the right, we can actually go to the left. That's the trick to dupes. You go through the right transition, then you go back through the left transition, which then takes you to the right transition, which takes you to the left transition. And so you can keep doing that to work your way leftward. And then now we are going across this elevator, which normally is locked, so we can't go through it, but we can just go around the top. And now we can grab the geo rock that is in this area, which otherwise would be blocked off from us. There we go. So we exit to get out of the dupe. C-dash underneath the floor. And now we can grab this rock. And there are just a few more rocks in Crossroads to go, and then we can start working our way back down into fungal. Here we're going past the Aspid Arena room. You may have noticed that we've gone past this room a couple times, but we've never actually fought the Aspids. And we're never going to fight the Aspids, because that takes a while. Plus we'd have to dodge the geos, so we'll just keep going around them, using out-of-bounds movement. So in here, we've got a couple of rocks to get. And then we also need to get a dive-locked rock. Two rocks, rather. So, at this point, you know, we've got a lot of geo on us. It might be a little bit dangerous carrying around this much geo. I mean, what if we died? So, how about we go somewhere where we can find a place to keep that geo safe? I heard there might be a place we can go somewhere over here. There are some rocks we can grab on the way. So we can grab this rock real quick underneath the Shroomalookers. And then we could head over here. And then now we're going to do a load warp again and use that to cross this entire room without having to go through it. That's a very long room, so it saves quite a bit of time. And I heard there's like a bank over here or something. Yeah, that's right. So we're going to go set up a bank account. With all this geo, would be very helpful. We do have to stay in the room a little bit to finish banking. So we're going to wait for the prompts to go through. And then, yeah, let's just store everything. Much as we can. Perfect. That'll keep our geo safe. So now we can continue through here. And there is a little bit of geo that we need to get through here. And then we're going to be going through Greenpath. So first we're going to get all the geo on the left side here. Thankfully jumping lets us clear that annoying little blocker there that normally would stop you. Say hi to the Gulkas. More geo there. And then there is a geo chest in this room. And then now we have to backtrack. There is a lot of awkward backtracking in this route. Without Dreamgate or Stags, there's a lot of places where you just kind of have to walk back after getting something. But we're able to do it pretty quickly. Out-of-bounds movement makes a lot of areas a lot faster than they otherwise would be. Like that. we're going to grab that bench, and we're going to use this to quit out so that we can not have to backtrack quite as much. So first we're going to go to the right side, say hi to Hornet on the way. This rock we have to catch the geo because it'll fall in the acid otherwise. Say hi to this funny little enemy that's actually outside of the view. He's just sitting on the ceiling there. You can run into that guy in a speedrun if you're not careful, so it's good to know that he's there. And again, we have to catch a little bit of geo there just to make sure it doesn't fall in the acid. And then same thing here. We have to make sure we catch all the geo that would fall in the acid. And then there's just one more rock over here on the right side, and then we can quit out to the sanctuary bench. Okay, almost done with Greenpath geo. We're just going to go through the left side here, work our way up, and then head into cliffs. There was a couple geo rocks that we left there because getting them early game would have taken forever without movement. So now that we have full movement, we can get them very quickly. Do a little gravity dash here, very satisfying one. Jump over the transition and work our way to the left transition, because there's a rock here that was below a toll bench. So we'll get that one. And then there's another rock in this transition, which again was below a... I forget what that one's below. I think that one might just be below a lever. And now we can work our way up there. Now we could have done out of bounds in this room on the right side, but it actually ends up being faster going in room. So we just go through in room movement here. Mainly because we also need to get this rock, so we need to come in this room anyways. Another rock down here. This game really does have quite a few rocks. So here, we are going to go past the Moss Knight, but we're not going to fight the Moss Knight. Rather than fighting the Moss Knight, we're just going to go around the room. It's kind of a theme in this run. So now we can head up into cliffs. Cheeky little diagonal dash there. Doesn't save much time, but it's fun. Now, one thing to note here is there is a chest here, but it's not a real chest. Now, technically, I didn't remember when I did this that chest does drop a single piece of geo. So, arguably, this is exactly max geo, all rocks and chests except for one. But I really didn't feel like coming back and redoing that at that point. It's so late in the run, and I would have had to redo so much work. So I'm just going to say that that's not a real chest. It's a mimic, let's say. Mimic chest. It's just a trap to lure you down to the boulders. Fun little movement there to catch the geo so it doesn't fall. Now we can get the rocks that are hiding underneath Gorb, including one on the right there. The extra hidden rock. And now we're going to C-dash all the way into Deepnest. And then use dash storage. Actually, no, C-dash. We can just fall all the way down. And then we're going to take the stag to get to resting grounds. So resting grounds, from here we can go through the crypts because there is a chest in there as well as some rocks. And then from here we'll be able to go down through city. We're going across the ceiling here, which means we're going to be inside the dark area that's unrevealed. But that's okay. We don't need to be able to see where we're going. get the chest, break a barrier there, break a rock, take some damage, and then make it through there. Hit a rock through the ceiling, and then dodge these exploding bats, and get all the geo in there. So here, we're going to go down through City, and then we're going to go into Kingdom's Edge, because we had a couple of rocks that we didn't get into there. Thankfully, we can go through these rooms pretty quickly now. This is a fun little C-dash. We can make it all the way under there and then up around. And then we can do a jumping C-dash through here. It just barely works to get us pretty far across the room. Here we're going to do what I call immersive acid skip by jumping in the acid. You have some iframes right after you go through a transition. And so we use those iframes to just take a quick little dip in the acid. Here we're doing some more fun C-dash tricks. Gravity dashes perfectly through. And then up slashes to get the enemies out of the way. And then we do a rocket jump to leave the room. Now we're going to go up and grab this little rock that's sitting just underneath Kahlo. And now we're going to go all the way to the right side toward Oro, because we want to do the 420 rock that's hiding underneath Oro. So we can do a nice long fall through the rooms to get down there. Here, we are actually doing a rocket jump from the floor out of bounds. And so this allows us to reach the transition from below without having to go all the way across the room. So now we're going down into this area that normally that would be the exit that you would take from this area. And we can do our little WCS across there. And then enter this area, which is where we get to 420 rock. There is a ton of dives here. You might notice that we can control during the dive, which allows us to cancel the dive in midair, and then dive in the air. We're basically hitting the ground in the air when we dash. And then we can do the same thing here, and then we just hit this rock forever. This rock takes so many hits to break. So long that a hopper actually falls down with us. We also are going to pass a hopper on the way. It's just kind of chilling on the wall. Not that one, I think it's on this one. Yep. The hoppers in this room get a little bit confused sometimes. And now we're going to go back out the same way that we came in. Now there are a couple more rocks in here that we can get on the way out of KE. And then we can jump there to get a full clearance C-dash. And then we can dive down here to get the rock here. You notice that we opened the shortcut previously so that we could get down here. And the reason we're doing that is because we need to make our way to waterways. And this is a nice convenient way to get across there. Now we're going to do some funny movement here. We need to avoid enemies in here. And in particular, there's going to be an enemy that spawns here. We're going to use dive iframes to get through them because we don't have enough health to tank them currently. And we had to be careful not to kill them with dive because we didn't want to have them drop geo. Now we can make it through here. And now we're going to enter waterways. Now, of course, we don't want to have to go through the twisty waterways as much as we could avoid it. There's a little invisible geometry there we can get airwalk off of. So we're going to go underneath this room. And then we're going to go above this room. So we skipped a lot of twisty-turny movement. And now we can make our way to the rocks that are in this room. And this is a very fun gravity dive. Or gravity dash, rather. There's a nice little sea dash that goes all the way across this room. And then as well in this room. You have to do a little bit of careful maneuvering here to avoid these flukes. Now here we can actually sea dash underneath the room. That's going to take us to a down transition, which then we have to dive through. That takes us to tilty bench, and we're tilted very briefly there. Didn't happen long enough. If you get bench storage on that bench, you actually have the knight stay tilted. Unfortunately, I have to get rid of bench storage to then dive through the next floor, but it's a fun little side effect. We skipped this whole flukes room just by going around the outside, and now we can quit out to tilty bench. So from tilty bench, we can now make our way back through waterways, because our goal is to get down to Basin and get the Basin and Abyss rocks. So to do that, we go all the way around, go back down, and then go around again. We're heading towards elevator at this point. And now we are going to do a room dupe to make it more quickly across the broken bridge. So rather than having to cross the broken bridge, we're just going to follow this transition and do that left, right, left thing again, which then takes us all the way across the broken bridge, and now we can drop down to the tram. And as soon as we go through the tram door, that ends the dupe. We can grab the bench there, and now we can come down here. First, we are going to get the Basin rocks, which are all near Broken Vessel. So we're going to get the one on the hallway here. We don't have to catch the geo because it'll just pick itself up out of the spikes with Gathering Swarm. And now there's just 2 more rocks in here. We got to go get the rock up, and then we got to get another rock down. Which normally that would be a one-way trip, but thanks to Airwalk, we can just go back up. And we can sea dash through here, sea dash through here. So now we need to get the Abyss rocks. So we don't have Kingsbrand, but you might have noticed a theme in this run. We don't use the normal entrances. We're just going to go around. We're going to go all the way around to the bottom of the Abyss. And now we can climb up to get the rocks with air dash, or airwalk rather. So this rock we can allow the geo to fall because we're not that far up yet and we have time to wait for it. But these next rocks we need to make sure no geo falls, because if it falls it's going to take forever to come back up to us. And this rock in particular is a little bit awkward, but we managed to catch all that geo. And there we go. That is actually the last rock in the game. We have gotten all of the geo from all of the rocks and chests. So we're at about a 46-46. But what are we going to do with all this geo? Well, I heard that there was a cool little fountain here that you could drop all your geo in and maybe you get something. Huh. We didn't get anything. Maybe we just need some more geo? Let's go to the bank and get what we have. Shouldn't take too long. So probably the easiest way to get to the bank is from Deepnest. A little awkward, but not too bad. We'll just climb up from here. Go underneath the floor. Go up around the outside. Right now we don't have the camera centered because this is sort of just a little postscript from the main run. Just want to see what that fountain has, you know? We're doing a rocket jump around an entire room here. So now we just make our way across this room. Almost at a Deepnest. So now we're heading into fungal. That'll allow us to get up into Fog Canyon where Mirabelle is, where all our geo is resting. Just a little bit more. Here we go. Oh, where is she? Oh. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this run of exactly max geo, only rocks and chests. And if you really enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe. That always helps the channel. If you're feeling especially generous, there is a super thanks feature. And once again, thank you, everybody. This was a very interesting run. It was fun learning about glitches, and it took quite a bit of work to make. And I appreciate everybody who's sat through this very long and convoluted run. And I hope you've enjoyed all the fun shenanigans we've had today.